Imagine there is a ghost that follows you. It is not the ghost of someone who has died. It is the ghost of the child you never got to be. You feel its presence in the strangest moments. A quiet, aching sadness that washes over you when you see a child playing freely in a park. A flash of unexpected anger when you witness a parent being truly gentle and nurturing to their child. A profound sense of emptiness, a feeling that something is fundamentally missing, that no amount of adult success or love seems to fill. You might carry the feeling of being an old soul, because you were never truly allowed to be young. And with all of this, comes a deep, quiet confusion. You ask yourself, how can I miss something I never had? How can I be grieving a life I never lived? If this feels like your story, you are not being dramatic. You are not living in the past. You are experiencing a real, profound, and often invisible form of grief. It is the unspoken grief of not having the childhood you deserved. And the first step to healing it is to finally give yourself permission to call it what it is: a loss. Our society has very clear rules for grief. When someone dies, we have rituals, funerals, sympathy cards, casserole dishes. There is a public acknowledgement that a loss has occurred. But there are no rituals for the loss of a safe childhood. There are no sympathy cards for the loss of emotional security. There are no casseroles for the loss of the freedom to just be a child. This is called disenfranchised grief. It is a grief that the world does not see, does not validate, and often does not even recognize as real. And because no one else sees it, you learn to believe it isn't real either. You learn to bury it, to minimize it, to tell yourself, it wasn't that bad. But it was. Because what was lost was not just a series of events. What was lost was the very foundation upon which a healthy self is built. So, what are we truly grieving? We are grieving the loss of safety. A child's number one job is to feel safe. Safe to be themselves, safe to make mistakes, safe to be vulnerable. But if you grew up in a world of chaos, of unpredictability, of anger, your job was not to be a child. Your job was to be a soldier. You had to be hypervigilant, constantly scanning the environment for threats. You are grieving the relaxed, peaceful nervous system you never got to have. You are grieving the child who had to be a security guard, instead of just being a kid. We are grieving the loss of unconditional love. A child needs to know that they are loved for who they are, not for what they do. But if you were only praised for your achievements, for being good, for being quiet, you learned that love was a wage to be earned, not a gift to be given. You are grieving the child who was never celebrated for their messy, imperfect, authentic self. The child who had to perform to be loved. We are grieving the loss of the freedom to play. Play is the work of a child. It is how they learn, how they connect, how they discover who they are. But if you had to be the little adult, if you had to carry the weight of adult responsibilities, of adult emotions, then play was a luxury you could not afford. You are grieving the child who had to be a caretaker, instead of being carefree. And we are grieving the loss of emotional attunement. A child needs a safe harbor for their inner world. They need a caregiver who can see their big feelings, and meet them with compassion and understanding. But if your feelings were dismissed, ignored, or even punished, you learned that your inner world was a dangerous or unwelcome place. You are grieving the child who had to navigate the terrifying storms of their own heart, completely alone. And this unprocessed, unwitnessed grief does not disappear. It shapes the adult you become. It shows up as that pervasive sense of emptiness. That feeling that something is missing, that hole in your soul. That is the shape of the childhood nourishment you never received. It shows up as a lifelong struggle with self-worth. A deep, quiet belief that you are not good enough, that you are a burden, that you have to earn your place. This is the echo of the child who was never shown their own inherent value. And it shows up in your relationships. You might recreate the old dynamics, or you might become fiercely hyper-independent, terrified of ever needing anyone again. You are an adult, still trying to get the needs met that were never met when you were a small, vulnerable child. So how do we begin to heal a wound so old and so deep? How do we mourn a ghost? The journey is not about blaming the past. It is about finally giving your grief the space and the compassion it has been waiting for its entire life. The first step is the most powerful. Give yourself permission. You must, consciously and deliberately, give yourself permission to grieve. To look back and say, what happened to me was a real loss. It was not fair. And I am allowed to be sad about it. I am allowed to be angry about it. You are validating your own story, perhaps for the first time. The second step is to get to know the ghost. Instead of pushing away the sadness when it comes, get curious about it. Get to know the child you never got to be. What did that child need? What did they love? What were they afraid of? You can do this by writing a letter to your younger self. By looking at old photos with a new sense of compassion. You are not just an adult remembering a past. You are a wise, loving adult, finally bearing witness to a child's unspoken pain. And then, you must allow yourself to grieve the unmourned moments. Grieve the birthday party that was filled with tension. Grieve the scraped knee that was met with irritation instead of a hug. Grieve the achievements that no one celebrated. Grieve the fear you had to face alone in the dark. By allowing yourself to feel the sadness of these small, specific moments, you are releasing the pain, piece by piece. And this leads to the most sacred work of all. You can now become the parent to yourself that you always needed. The adult you are today, with all of your wisdom and strength and compassion, can now turn to that wounded child inside and give them what they were always starving for. You can give yourself the permission to play. You can give yourself the unconditional acceptance for your imperfections. You can give yourself the comfort when you are scared. You can create, within your own heart, the safe and loving home you never had. This is the art of reparenting. Grieving your lost childhood is not an act of self-pity. It is a profound act of self-love. It is the necessary and courageous work that allows you to finally let the past be the past, and to step, not as a wounded child, but as a whole and healed adult, into the beautiful life that is waiting for you now. If this video was helpful for you, please show your support by clicking the like button. To continue this journey of healing, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. And if you know someone who might be carrying this secret, please share this video. It might be the moment of validation they need to begin to heal. Thank you for watching. Your childhood story is seen.